All right. Nice to see many familiar faces here and some new ones as well. So thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. So today's webinar is going to be all about maximizing hybrid learning in 2021 and 2022, something we are all dealing with. My name is Jack Friedman. I am the founder of Study Smart Tutors. Co-presenting with me today is Christian Marcus. Christian, you can introduce yourself as well.
Sure, thanks, Jack. So welcome, everyone. My name is Christian Marcus, and I am the Associate Director of Educational Technology for Study Smart Tutors. I'm grateful to be tasked with the exciting job of helping design and build curriculum for our online learning management system. I bring 10 years of secondary teaching experience covering subjects such as ELA, computer science, and financial literacy.
Excellent. Thank you, Christian. As most of you know, our mission here at Study Smart Tutors is relatively simple. We help students become the first in their families to get into and graduate from college. And that's our goal as we frame this work together, and excited to discuss and participate together today. Some community agreements as our time together today. As always, come as you are. Everything is an invitation, and welcome new experiences, and we will do the same thing. Super quick icebreaker today. Just want to get a sense of the room this afternoon. For some of us in California, it is lunchtime. For others in other places, it is later. But would love to hear in the chat box with either a color, a quadrant, or a word from the screen. How are you feeling today? Feel free to use. Eric says motivated. Excellent. Jessica, yellow. Beautiful. Cheerful. Thanks, Maria. Christian says green. Marissa says green. Excellent. Say lively. Love it. Thanks, Hector. Green. All right. Lots of green and yellow today. Those of us, when we're blue and red, maybe we don't jump on these webinars. So maybe this is a self-selecting group. So thank y'all. We're going to do a quick Mentimeter. I don't know if this is a tool you all have used with your students before, but we like it as a polling platform. I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen share. We're going to use a Mentimeter together, and we're going to ask a few questions, and the directions for the Mentimeter will be on the screen. So you're going to go to menti.com, and you're going to use this code 28032872. I will put the link in the chat box as well so everybody can see it. Go ahead and use the link here, and would love to just get a sense of your roles. So what is your role? And feel free to use the awesome. Great. TRIO staff, some other college access program staff. Excellent. Lots of TRIO folks in the room. Yeah, for whatever reason, the Mentimeter is not working, feel free to use the chat. Give everybody one more minute, and then I'm going to move on to our next question, which is also on the Mentimeter. And Mentimeter is a cool tool because you can create lots of different types of questions, lots of different ways to anonymously check for understanding, to anonymously gather information, to get how students are feeling. And so we like it for that reason. All right, second question. What does your program delivery look like in 2021, 2022? Are you going to be fully virtual? Are you going to be in person only? Are you going to be both? And definitely, again, self-selecting here because this topic is about hybrid learning. So I was expecting a lot of both, which is great to see here. Awesome. Give everybody another minute to vote. Awesome. Thanks, Grindel. Says both as well. Beautiful. All right. And our last question, this one is going to be a word cloud. So I'm excited to see your words here that come up. When you think about providing simultaneously in-person and virtual programming, what words come to mind? So when you think about doing both, what comes to mind? And this could be whatever words you think of, and you can actually input more than one as well. So whatever comes to mind, and we're going to see a word cloud appear on the screen, which is pretty cool. Accessibility, scheduling, planning, equity. Nice. Engagement, adjusting, out of the box. A word I would add maybe is intimidating. Awesome. Engagement, variety. Christian, hopefully this gives you some good context for the rest of our workshop together. I think this hits pretty much all of the points that we were hoping to address today. So I'm glad to see that what you all are thinking about is along the lines of what we were talking and thinking about as well. Excellent. All right. Thank you all. Christian, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right, thank you. So yeah, excellent exercise. I think it definitely validates a lot of what we're going to be going over today, and just a lot of the emotions that you all are feeling, that you are going to experience a hybrid experience, and that your concept of this is, focused on equity and ensuring equity and accessibility and engagement and planning. And if that intimidation word that Jack highlighted, I think we're going to introduce a powerful tool and framework called TPACK that will hopefully really help eliminate or at least minimize any types of anxiety we may all be feeling as we're trying to go back and trying to implement all these different technologies to make students feel successful in learning. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I think a great place to start is kind of defining what distance education is. So I'm going to call on a few of you to read these definitions, and now I'm going to ask you to pick out a phrase that stands out to you. So hopefully I've chosen the right screen. I got way too many monitors, so hopefully I'm showing the one where it's displayed to its full size. So if you don't mind, Maria Ariano, can you read for us this first paragraph here, which says distance learning means?
Yes, of course. Distance learning means instruction in which the student and instructor are in different locations. It may include interacting through the use of computer and communications technology, as well as delivering instruction and check-in time with the teacher.
Thank you. Excellent. And then Eric, can you read the second point?
Video or audio instruction in which the primary mode of communication between the student and instructor is online interaction, instructional television, video, telecourses, or other instruction that relies on computer or communications technology.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then last but not least, Jessica, could you please read for us the final point in defining distance learning?
Sure. The use of print materials incorporating assignments that are the subject of written or oral feedback.
Excellent. Thank you. So take a moment, everyone, and in the chat box, maybe just write down one phrase that really stands out to you. I mean, there's this definition of distance learning, and there's a lot of pieces to it. So I just want us to kind of hone our attention and our focus on maybe one phrase that is of interest to you, or maybe something that you want to focus on this year, or maybe you want some assistance on. So again, take a moment in the chat box and go and pick out one phrase that stands out to you in this definition. All right, communications technology, awesome. Video, primary mode of communication. Okay, excellent. So yeah, definitely video is something that's increasingly a part of distance education, but it comes with its own nuances. Written or oral feedback. So definitely there's this blend, there's going to be reading, there's going to be verbal instructions, different locations. That's an excellent point. Definitely we're managing different spaces in a variety of places. Video and audio and written. Grendel, thank you. Absolutely. There's just different formats and different tools that we're using. Okay, great. These are some great phrases. So good. So definitely distance learning encompasses all of these aspects, and it definitely can feel a little bit overwhelming. So definitely we're going to be focusing on a tool that kind of help us manage all of this, or at least help us with our thinking. And this is an important topic because hybrid learning and the tools and technologies that are associated with it are here to stay, even post-pandemic. The pandemic accelerated and disrupted the way that we interact with students and the way that we conceive of education. But educational technology was already being presented and implemented. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be done so quickly and so disruptively, but this is definitely, that's going to remain with us, even hopefully once things settle back to normal. So let's kind of focus in on a little bit more on the definition of hybrid learning. So let me get Alvin, would you mind reading for us these 2 bullet points that give us a little more insight into what hybrid learning specifically is?
Sure. Hybrid learning implements synchronous lessons taught simultaneously in person and online. Some hybrid learning experiences can include supplementary asynchronous components as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Alvin. And maybe just in the chat box, can you all maybe choose what are maybe 2 words that are commonly associated with hybrid learning that stands out to you in these these points about hybrid learning? If you had to choose 2 words that really define hybrid learning, what would they be? Feel free to add that in the chat box. Asynchronous and synchronous. Alvin, right on. Absolutely. These are 2 really important concepts that are characteristic of hybrid learning. And synchronous, as we all know, is where, like it says in the definition, teaching simultaneously both in person and online. So in this graphic, which is really cool, you can tell that an instructor is teaching students directly, but also some students who are remote, as opposed to just being in the classroom. And increasingly, more and more schools and districts are experiencing this need to offer both options simultaneously. And of course, some things to hybrid learning is asynchronous, meaning some things that students are doing on their own without the presence of a teacher. And as wonderful as this is in terms of the number of options available to students, it definitely becomes more of a challenge trying to manage all of these different pieces, and they each demand different sets of strategies. So that's definitely something that we're going to be looking at and spending some time talking about, and more importantly, giving you a chance to actually practice and have some hands-on experience. Okay, and so why is this happening? Why the urgency? Why the importance of trying to educate ourselves? I'm constantly learning about this because as the data shows, there is an urgency to get back to the classroom, but this really does vary by circumstance. And as you can see here in the graphic, some students are eager and based on their needs really need to be present in the classroom, but then there are others who just continue to desire and remote type of experience. So again, that
Yeah.
definitely the data suggests this. Oh, I believe someone was wanted to say something. Okay, no worries. Feel free to interject anytime or just drop in the chat box if you have something to say, or maybe raise the hand using the Zoom feature. We're happy to address any of your questions at any time. Okay, also, as I mentioned earlier, this, hybrid learning definitely has its own complexity. There's a digital component where you have that synchronous and asynchronous, and we have large groups and small groups and one-on-ones, and then we have individual working from home with even parents attempting to help. And then there's also a non-digital learning component where we have that face-to-face, that individual aspect to learning and interaction. So these are all things that we are now having to consider. And again, as exciting and wonderful it is in terms of all the options that are now available to us, it does demand a different degree of pedagogy and sophistication that not everyone has been trained on or are starting to get trained on. This is a resource that you're going to all each get a copy of our presentation. And this is a great graphic organizer that you can use to help you think about, well, what aspects of our instruction or our interaction or our program do we envision being synchronous, envision being asynchronous, envision using digital tools of technology or non-digital tools of technology. So again, this is a great tool. So for example, in the example here, when thinking about FAFSA, maybe some aspects of synchronous digital learning can involve guiding students through the application itself. It can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of fields. So maybe that's a point where the instructor should be present with students at the same time. And then maybe some aspects being asynchronous. Okay, now that we've shown you how to walk through FAFSA, maybe go home and collect these materials so that the next time we meet, we can move through some other content. And then, of course, again, just thinking about, well, what aspects are going to be paper-based? Hey, so maybe some of your materials might be paper-based, and maybe we can also send you additional digital copies of resources that may benefit you. So again, this is kind of a quick, example demonstration of how this graphic organizer can be used to kind of help organize and orient our thinking, especially when there's so many things to consider. Okay, and another important piece to hybrid learning is really being aware and assessing where are the tech needs and levels of maturity when it comes to the tools of tech are among both staff and students. As you can see here in this graph, there's a variety of ranges in terms of abilities that you're going to encounter in the classroom and also in your program. Some individuals may be more comfortable and familiar with certain technologies and tools of technology than others, and that's okay, and that's normal, but it's important to keep in mind, because when you're planning instruction or when you're organizing some kind of experience virtually or with using digital technology, you want to make sure that digital literacy is taken into consideration, and you're really anticipating, making sure everyone gets the supports that they need to feel confident and comfortable in these new environments and spaces. Okay. So with all that, I want to kind of shift focus on really introducing you this tool called TPACK, which is a wonderful framework that can help orient our thinking and our planning and our instruction and our interactions. And so I'm going to kind of quickly go over what TPACK is, and then we're going to give you all an opportunity to actually apply it and practice it. And then we'll have a chance to discuss what our experiences were like and kind of give a chance to share the results of what you all came up with using this framework called TPACK. Okay, so if you don't mind, Hector, would you be wonderful and read for us this definition of what TPACK is?
TPACK is a framework designed to help staff effectively integrate technology in support of educational settings. TPACK identifies 3 types of knowledge that facilitators guide to consider when planning services for either hybrid, blended, or virtual learning environments. 1, content knowledge. 2, pedagogical knowledge. integrate technological knowledge.
Awesome. Thanks, Hector. Really appreciate it. So, there's a lot here, but really it's a framework that guides us to thinking about, okay, if we have a particular lesson or unit we want to teach, we need to take into consideration the content aspects, the pedagogical aspects, and the technological aspects, and more importantly, to think about how these three pieces are going to best integrate and mutually support each other. So this framework does a really, really wonderful job of that. And hybrid, blended, and virtual learning environments are perfect tools that TPACK addresses. Okay, so the first one really quickly is content knowledge. So this is, what are you facilitating and what is your own knowledge of the subject? So this is really the start of any type of interaction. What is it going to be? History? Is it going to be science? Is it going to be what is the content of maybe a department meeting you're all planning to have? So this is definitely the first thing you want to take into consideration. The second one is the pedagogical knowledge based on the content, the activity that you envision leading your students and staff with. What is the best pedagogical approaches to facilitate the learning of that content? So how do your students learn best? And what facilitator strategies do you need to meet their needs and the requirements of the lesson plan? So examples could include small group. Is it going to be project-based? We hear that a lot. Pair sharing, peer teaching. Is it going to be synchronous and asynchronous? So again, once you have your content knowledge selected, what pedagogical tools do you want to apply to make the learning of that content the most effective? Okay, and then the third piece to this is technological knowledge, which is kind of the meat of what we're all experiencing. What digital tools are available to you? Which do you know well enough to use? And which would be most appropriate for the lesson in hand? So again, based on the content, based on what you want to do with your pedagogy, are you going to be using PowerPoints? Are you going to be asking students to construct a thinking map using Jamboard? Do you want to create a student PSA using Screencastify or maybe Kahoot? So again, really thinking about what is the best tool of technology to facilitate the pedagogical engagement of the specific content that you want either your students or staff to have experience with. Okay, so let's take a quick moment to a little quick check for understanding. I know that was a lot. And so I want you to imagine for a moment that you are a college tutor and your objective is to help students on a financial literacy assignment. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to match the tasks on the right with the three categories below. So which of these, A, B, or C, is content knowledge, which is pedagogical knowledge, and which is technological knowledge? So feel free to maybe in the chat box, just kind of number it. So put, if you think one is, I don't know, Z, or two is F, or three is, A, whatever that might be. Go ahead and just number that in the chat box. And this as a quick check for understanding. So our first example here is students will use a Google spreadsheet to document a hypothetical college student's weekly spending habits. What do you all think? Does this fall under content, pedagogical, or technological knowledge? What do you all think? Okay, let's see. All right, we got one is B. Looks like we have unanimous consent on that. Okay, that is true. Content knowledge is students will learn about the concepts of debits versus credit. So this is really just the focus on the content piece of the lesson. Two, let's see here. Pedagogical knowledge looks like there is consensus around C. Students will work in pairs to analyze a set of data. So you are all correct. Absolutely. This is more of a pedagogical consideration. How do you want students to engage with the content? So maybe in this moment, you want students to work in pairs to analyze data. And then last but not least, of course, technological knowledge. Students will use a Google spreadsheet to document a hypothetical college student's weekly spending habits. So now you notice how the three are consistent and mutually reinforcing. The content is the weekly spending habits, working in pairs, and I'm sorry, the content is learning about the concept of debits and credits, working in pairs, the pedagogy, and the use of this Google spreadsheet for the technological component. Okay, so as you can see, TPACK is really helping us kind of compartmentalize these three pieces to make sure that they're really kind of mutually reinforcing each other. So we're going to put you all into groups where you're going to apply this TPACK model. So we're going to send you a link to a graphic organizer that's going to help guide your thinking. And we encourage you to either revise something that you've done in the past, or maybe something that you plan on doing in the near future. And then we're going to go ahead and give you some time to do that. And then we'll reconvene and we'll go around and give you a chance to share some of what you came up with. So I'll go ahead and show you what this document is going to look like. So you're going to, Jack is going to drop this link to this document in the chat box. And you will notice that based on the breakout room that you're going to be placed into, if you're going to be great breakout room 1, you're going to be group 1. If you're going to be great breakout room 2, you'll be group 2, so on and so forth. So we've got plenty here for each of you all. And again, here's a choose a topic or that you want to kind of apply this TPACK model toward, and take a moment to kind of think about what the content is you want to focus on, what kind of pedagogical moves you want to apply to engage students or staff, and what tool of technology will work best to facilitate the content and the pedagogy that you will have identified. As a bonus, if you maybe you can choose one of these three. There's 4, it really is asking you think about how these 3 intersect. So once you've outlined each individually, maybe you can offer a summary statement in terms of how these 3 will work together as you envision them. Okay, any questions? Let's see here. Jordan, what do you think? What are they about to do? Can you summarize for us what they should be expected to do here? I think I may have called him. He's probably on a call. How about Marissa? What are you all about to be doing in a moment here?
Yeah, so in groups, we'll be coming up with like a workshop or lesson plan, and then going through each of the steps of the TPACK to kind of flesh out what we would do in that scenario with our students.
Excellent, awesome. All right, great. So we'll have you all placed in the breaker room shortly. We'll give you maybe 10 minutes to fill this graphic organizer out, and then we'll reconvene and discuss. And the experience of your experience of using TPACK. Let's go around. Let's start with group 1, Alvin, Nicholas, and Jack. What did you think about the experience? What were some of the things that you came up with, if you don't mind sharing? For either Alan, Nicholas, or Jack, feel free to share.
We had some really great discussion. We talked a lot about FAFSA
Awesome.
and utilizing technology in our FAFSA sessions. I'll let Nicholas or Alvin kind of talk about some of the benefits of doing FAFSA virtually or in a hybrid space or with a lot of technology, making these FAFSA sessions a lot more productive for students and families.
I'll just choose one. Alvin, how about you? You want to offer your 2 cents on this?
Yeah, we talked about how, doing FAFSA and, virtually and whatnot, and how that could help with, individuals that don't really feel comfortable in sharing FAFSA related information in person at a workshop, and how, it may be more comfortable for them to be able to do this at home, where they have all the information that they wouldn't necessarily want to take, into a in-person workshop or, things of that sort. So yeah, just, doing things from home might be more comfortable, and especially with this type of topic.
Awesome. Yeah, no, definitely the effective filter and this is where students are at in terms of their comfort level is always important to take into consideration. Awesome. And then Nicholas, maybe was there any particular tool that you were exploring in terms of helping students maybe organize their materials or maybe manage their thoughts?
Well, right before the session ended, we were just talking about Jamboard as one of the tools to use, and also really utilizing the different mediums for contacting students and families, like through Zoom, Google Classroom, WebEx, etc. Really utilizing those breakout rooms, and so we can have that individualized contact, and then utilizing screen share for when students and their families are in situations they might need more help with and more hand holding to walk through that process.
Awesome. No, thank you. That's a great description. Yeah. And Jamboard is an excellent tool for brainstorming, jotting ideas, generating ideas. So definitely that one's a great tool. We have a lot of great positive feedback on. Okay, great. How about Fabiola and Bonita? How about you, Bonita? What do you think?
We did the personal statement.
Oh, awesome.
And so we talked about the content knowledge. Fabiola said that I had expert knowledge. I thought that was going a little far, but anyway, personal statement support, and especially the PIQs for the UCs. We're in the throes of that right now.
Absolutely.
I indicated that there are 8 of them and the students need to choose 4. So it's very important to review the questions and to review the information that the UCs prepare for you to explain the areas you need to think about in each one of those 8 questions. They put out some very, very good material. And so rather than just having students stare at the questions, read them and be confused, here are some things you can think about when you're talking about the leadership question. And then we went on to pedagogy, and we thought about all types of learners. So we had pair share as one of the things we were going to do. There are a lot of good videos that have do's and don'ts about what you should do and how you should approach the essays. It's good to hear somebody else talk to you about that beside Marissa and I, or the same guy who comes from UCLA and you fall asleep during his lecture. Discussion, specific topics, making sure that they understand that creativity does not mean that you have to be an artist, that leadership does not mean that you have to be the ASB president, and obstacles that may be something that you think are not a big deal or that are too personal to discuss in a group, get into it with them so that they can turn that into, well, how did you overcome it? And how is that going to make you the greatest student for UCLA?
Awesome.
And then we also said we needed to read some good and bad essays so that we and evaluate them for addressing the prompt and what was good and bad about them. Forcing them to actually read what is written so that we can instill in them that they will have to reread what they've written and have other people do the same.
And I love the technological components that to facilitate what you just beautifully described, which is the thinking maps, the Venn diagrams, those comparisons, right? You have the good and bad, and okay, so let's use a Venn diagram to really think about what features makes one better than the other, and the Google Docs and maybe some PowerPoints. So I thought those are some really great appropriate tools.
And in the tech, we had PowerPoints, we had thinking maps, and we had Google Docs.
Awesome.
So that,
I love it.
So that there was editing, whether it was in the groups or whether it was our experts, our English teacher, Marissa, and I helping the students, craft their essays.
Oh, I love that. And, Google Docs too. And I used to do this when I was in the classroom, using Google Docs, training students to share the Google Docs so they can peer edit. Again, that's a nice way of looking at how tech and the pedagogy kind of intersect, because, you know, Google Doc, the sharing features, allowing for the peer editing and collaboration. So awesome. Yeah, this is some great examples. I just love the way you delineated your thinking using TPACK
Well, you
around
gave us
that.
a great template. And then we felt in number 4 that we were more PCK, that we, the pedagogical content, because obviously these essays are definitely pedagogy. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that's going to get you in or out of a UC. So.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Awesome description there. I love hearing how this really took shape using this model.
Thanks to Fabiola. She was a great facilitator.
She's the best. She's the best.
Thank you.
Let me jump to group 3, Marissa, Samuel, and Jessica. Maybe highlight 1 or 2 things that stood out to you that you really appreciated or you brought to attention in your group discussion. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to randomly choose. How about Marissa? Do you want to kind of share with us some of what you all came up with?
Yeah, we had a really great discussion. We focused on workshops for the FAFSA and the DREAM Act.
Awesome.
And so we really talked about kind of strategies that we use with our students that work really well. One of them was Kahoot. Our students love Kahoot. And so I think the financial aid process is very intimidating for students because all the terms are completely new.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great interactive and engaging way to kind of have them learn, you know, the types of aid, the grant eligibility, and everything. So we definitely use a Kahoot game in the beginning to kind of assess knowledge and get the students engaged. We also talked about using video tutorials on the federal student aid website because they're really short snippets and they're really visually like clear. And so kind of maybe getting some ideas on like how the students can create their FSA ID and then also kind of learn the overview of the financial aid process. One of the things that we like all bonded over was just how in the virtual environment, it's been really hard to see like tax documents directly from the students because normally we're like sitting right next to them and we can read the lines.
Right.
So we've also strategized about like what technology we can use, with whether it be like scanning or like picture sharing, so that we're able to also look at the same information along with them, as you know, because they can't really screen share it if it's only a paper copy. So that's something that we talked about as well. And is there one? Oh, also something that I promote to my students is the My Student Aid app for the federal student aid, because a lot of our students sometimes work on their phones primarily or tablets. And so that makes it easier for them to fill out the FAFSA form rather than using like Safari on their phone or like some, you know, like if they're able to actually see the screens and windows and fill everything out much easier.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, great. Again, I love hearing the excitement, just the discussions that this tool, this framework generated. Kahoot is an awesome tool because it really gamifies the learning experience. And yeah, I've had some wonderful experiences with that tool. It's a really powerful app. Awesome. Okay, one last one. I don't want to leave anyone out. Eric, Hector, and Julia's group. Eric, maybe highlight one thing that really stood out that you really appreciated. I don't know, I guess planning around using TPACK.
Yeah, we talked about the FAFSA scholarship and the difficulties of, you know, getting information to students. Do you do large group? Do you do small group? Do you do virtual? Do you do one-on-one? You know, with Hector's scenario, there's just a lot of students to work with, and it's just been, there's a lot of challenges because it's sensitive information. You know, students are talking about assets, parent marital status. And we just kind of brainstorm some ideas to kind of facilitate that better. And, you know, using different options like PowerPoint, like small group activities to get these students to complete this application that has a lot of challenges, you know, for them to get through it.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. And again, great framework, just helps you kind of really systematize your thinking. It sounds like you all had some really good productive discussions, a lot of excitement and passion in the air. And that's really the purpose of this framework. I want to be respectful of all of your time. So I'm going to hand it back over to Jack and Casey to close out the session. Thank you all for listening and being present.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate the time. We will make sure to send out all of the resources and templates and PowerPoints and this recording back to you. We also, and I should have introduced them at the beginning, so I apologize. We have other folks from our team here. Julia is here. Casey Weld is a partnership manager for us. He's here. Fabiola Tapux is here. She's one of our partnership managers. Jordan was here. So we have lots of Study Smart team members. This is simply a sample of the PDs that we offer. Would love to connect with you and your teams about some further options for PD and workshops and all of the above. And we'll make sure to follow up with you about some of those things as well. Casey, anything I missed there?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just the survey, and I think
That's
you
right.
might have the survey link. I was trying to pull it up, but if
We
you
will
can grab it,
send
that'd
it
be great.
out. Yeah, we will send it out. Thanks, Casey. Thanks, everybody. We will send out the survey link, and we look forward to connecting further. Thank you all so much. Put it right here. Here's the survey link. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Connie. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Marissa. Thanks, Benita.